Okay, you've definitely had this done, probably 100 times. A cuff tightens on your arm, you hear that whirring sound, and then two numbers pop up. But what do those numbers, your blood pressure, really tell us about the incredibly complex, high-stakes plumbing system working inside you right this second? Well, let's actually break down what's going on.
So why is this one measurement so important? Why do they check it every single time? Think of it like this. It's a quick peek, a powerful snapshot of what's happening inside your entire cardiovascular system. And believe me, when things aren't right, the consequences can be, well, they can be really serious.
And that quote, that really hits the nail on the head. High blood pressure, or hypertension, gets called the silent killer for a reason. And the scary part is you can feel totally fine, absolutely normal, while behind the scenes, it's quietly increasing your risk for some of the biggest health problems out there.
So you can think of blood pressure with the Goldilocks principle. It's got to be just right. If it's too low, your vital organs like your brain and kidneys, they're not going to get enough of that oxygen-rich blood they desperately need. But if it's too high, that constant, relentless force starts damaging your arteries and organs from the inside out.
All right, so let's get into the nitty-gritty. What do those two numbers actually mean when that cuff tightens up around your arm?
At its most basic level, blood pressure is just the force of your blood pushing against the walls of your arteries. The easiest way to picture it is to think about a garden hose. The pressure of the water pushing against the inside of that hose, that's exactly what's happening inside your arteries with every heartbeat.
Your blood pressure reading always gives you two numbers, and they each tell a different part of the story about your heart. The top number, the systolic pressure, that's the peak force when your heart contracts. That's the big squeeze, right? And the bottom number, the diastolic, that's the pressure that's still in your arteries when your heart is chilling out, relaxing between beats.
Okay, so here's what those numbers mean in the real world. Anything under 120/80, we call that normal. Great. Once you start getting into that elevated zone, it's kind of a yellow flag. It's a heads up to start paying attention. But when you get into stage 1, and especially stage 2 hypertension, that's when your long-term risk for serious problems really starts to ramp up.
All right, now let's nerd out a little bit on the mechanics. How is this pressure even created in our bodies?
Well, it all boils down to this really simple-looking equation in physiology. It starts like this. Blood pressure equals
The first part of the puzzle, cardiac output. Now, that's just a fancy way of saying how much blood your heart is pumping out every single minute. The more blood it pumps, the higher the pressure. But that's only half the equation.
And then you multiply that by the second piece, systemic vascular resistance. This is all about how much your blood vessels are fighting back against that blood flow. Let's go back to that garden hose. What happens if you put your thumb over the end of the hose? The resistance shoots up, and so does the pressure. Same idea.
And a huge piece of that resistance puzzle is a word you'll hear a lot, compliance. It's just a way of describing how stretchy and flexible your arteries are. Healthy arteries are supposed to be elastic so they can stretch and then snap back, which helps keep the blood moving along smoothly.
And you can really see the difference here. A healthy, stretchy artery expands with each pump of the heart, which absorbs a lot of that pressure and makes your heart's job way easier. But a diseased artery, one that's gotten stiff from things like plaque, it doesn't give. It's like trying to pump water through a rigid metal pipe instead of that flexible hose. Your heart has to work so much harder to shove the blood through, and the pressure just skyrockets.
Okay, so what's the big deal if that pressure stays high for years and years? Well, this is exactly why they call it the silent killer.
You know, it's like a chain reaction. First, that constant pressure starts to rough up the delicate inner lining of your arteries. That damage makes it way easier for plaque to start building up and narrowing the pipes. If that happens in the arteries feeding your heart, you're looking at a heart attack. And the arteries going to your brain, a stroke. And all the while, your heart muscle's working on overdrive against all that resistance, which can wear it out and lead to heart failure. Even your kidneys take a beating as their tiny filtering vessels get damaged.
Okay, that was a lot of doom and gloom. But here's the really good news. For the vast majority of people, high blood pressure is something you can manage. So let's look at some of the most powerful ways to bring those numbers down. Let's start with exercise. Just getting regular movement, a mix of cardio and some strength training, can drop your top number by a solid 4 to 6 points. And here's the craziest part. You get that benefit even if you don't lose a single pound. It's all about making your heart and your blood vessels more efficient.
Now, if you do manage to lose some weight, the benefits just keep coming.
On average, for every 1 kilogram you lose, that's about 2.2 pounds, you can knock off another half to 2 points. So you can see how a 10-pound weight loss could suddenly mean a drop of 5, maybe even 10 points. It really, really adds up.
And of course, what you eat, wow, it has a huge impact. Just by cutting back on the amount of sodium in your diet, a lot of people can see a drop of nearly 5 points. Why? Well, think about it. Salt makes you thirsty, right? It makes your body hold on to extra water. More water means more blood volume in your vessels, and that drives the pressure up. This is a huge one.
And one of the most famous, well-researched eating plans for this is the DASH diet, which stands for Dietary Approaches to Stop Hypertension. And look, it's not rocket science. It's basically just eating more of the good stuff, veggies, fruits, whole grains, and less of the stuff we know isn't great for us like sweets and red meats. It's just a solid, healthy way to eat.
Okay, this is super important. If you're going to check your numbers at home, you have to do it right. Otherwise, the numbers don't mean much. To get a real reading, you have to create a calm baseline. Sit down, feet flat, back supported, and just chill for 5 minutes. No caffeine, no smoking for at least half an hour beforehand. Keep their arms supported at about heart level and don't talk. If you follow these steps, you're measuring your true resting pressure, not just some random spike.
And look, it's really important to say this. Lifestyle changes are powerful. They're always step one. But sometimes they're not enough. Things like your age and your genetics play a big role too. And for a lot of people, taking medication is an absolutely necessary and life-saving tool to get their blood pressure safely under control.
At the end of the day, it really all boils down to knowing your numbers. Understanding what your blood pressure is and what it means for your health, that's what gives you the power to do something about it. So